Edmonton's environmental activist, bike lane loving Mayor Don Iveson thinks we need a carbon tax. He said so this past week at a city-sponsored event. An event that cost the taxpayer like $55,000, by the way. Mayor Iveson said, "I think whatever the mechanism is, some form of carbon price that everybody sees for their transportation fuels and their home heating fuels is the only way to go." He wants us to pay more for home heating fuel. Edmonton is a winter city. It snows from October to late April or early May, and that's normal for us. But it's no surprise to hear that Mayor Iveson talks like this. He's an environmentalist. In 2007, he attended the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Bali. I suppose he swam there, of course, to save the carbon emissions. What? He didn't? That's weird. Iveson also endorsed a municipal tax on plastic bags and advocates a reduction in cosmetic pesticide use. And now the City of Edmonton's YouTube page rivals that of Greenpeace for just shameless carbon fear-mongering. Then there are the bike lanes. Man, Iveson loves those bike lanes. The city budgeted $100 million on bike lanes and then found out the bike lanes were so unpopular, some of them are now being removed. Now that seems like it might take a lot of carbon emissions if you care about that kind of stuff to remove all those bike lanes. You know, besides the multi-million-dollar expense to the taxpayer. Again, I need to mention Edmonton is a winter city, like really, really winter. We don't ride bikes a lot. Then there's the new housing development that Iveson is so excited about. It uses the recycled sewage of the homeowners and their neighbors to heat the water and the residences. That seems really gross to me, but I suppose it's far better than dumping it untreated into the river. Right, Montreal? But what is it about the big city progressive mayors like Iveson, Nenshi in Calgary, and Gregor Robertson in Vancouver? They think it's perfectly okay to meddle in issues that fall firmly outside of their city's mandates. And a quick look at their cities demonstrates that they really should have a lot more pressing local issues to deal with. Let's look at Calgary's Mayor Reid Nenshi. Nenshi weighed in on the niqab citizenship ceremony debate and the subsequent Supreme Court ruling, which happens to be a federal issue. Nenshi should butt out. Nenshi's beautiful city had a race riot 2 summers ago that ended with Jews being beaten up by pro-Palestinian activists. And that's besides the problem Calgary seems to have with exporting terrorists. Vancouver Mayor Gregor Robertson is a puppet for Tides Canada, that environmental charity clearinghouse, and he keeps weighing in on pipeline issues for some reason. But last time I looked, Mayor Robertson has a drug, poverty, and homelessness problem on the downtown east side, in spite of the astounding $1 million per day the city of Vancouver throws at the problem. East Hastings is a place where poverty and misery is so inescapable, it's been called Vancouver's gulag. What happens there is ugly, and it's happening right now. It's way uglier than any oil spill that may never even happen. Paging Mayor Moonbeam, forget about hating on Kinder Morgan, and step up and save some real lives. And then Mayor Iveson thinks the most pressing issue happening right now in Edmonton is climate change. If you've driven around Edmonton, the roads are terrible. The potholes can swallow up a small car. And that's just a small issue. Alberta is in a major recession. In fact, the jobless rate in Alberta is up to 6.5%. That's a full 2 points up from last year at the same time. Stats Canada says Alberta has dropped almost 11,000 jobs between September 15th and October 15th. And that doesn't take into account the billions of dollars in canceled energy projects and the hundreds and hundreds of jobs lost since the NDP's horrible provincial budget came out. And Mayor Iveson is learning nothing from that. And Canada canceled a project citing uncertainty around emissions regulations. And TransAlta canceled their Sundance 7 project, saying the exact same thing. But here Iveson is saying we need more taxes and more regulations. That will just chase jobs out of our province, out of the city, and into other jurisdictions. Climate change isn't the biggest concern Alberta is facing. The biggest threat is the government's policies to tackle so-called climate change. These policies don't stop climate and climate change, they stop jobs. And for a mayor who claims to care about poverty reduction, shouldn't he be advocating ideas that help jobs, not kill them? Albertans are struggling, and a carbon tax is a tax on everything, and it makes everything more expensive. The last thing Edmontonians need to hear from their mayor's mouth is a sales pitch for a carbon tax. Iveson has other things to worry about. All of these progressive mayors do. For TheRebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid.